right, I think we'll get started now and welcome today to today's program. We have a wonderful partner today with SAP Concur who has developed this program to help share some insights into their organization as well as what can be opportunities for you as participants. So at this point, I'd like to introduce Chelsea Lerdahl, who is with SAP Concur, and she'll take it over from here. So welcome, Chelsea.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jennifer. Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for taking some time on your Sunday to dial in and learn a little bit more from our panelists today and learn a little bit more about SAP Concur. So to kick it off, I am the mediator today for this panelist, and my name is Chelsea Lerdahl. I am the Senior Global Program Manager for Corporate Social Responsibility at SAP Concur, and a lot of my job is working with nonprofits just like STEM for Her. I'm located in, actually, I should update this. I'm located in St. Paul, Minnesota now, just recently moved to the other Twin City. And just a few fun facts about me. I'm originally from the Boston area. I recently got married to my husband now during COVID. So in June we got married, and that's that picture in the top right. And then my new or my favorite way to volunteer is actually fostering animals. I love fostering animals through a local animal shelter. We aren't fostering right now though, because I keep failing and I'm adopting all of these cats. So right now we're not having any new fosters, but it is my favorite way to volunteer is fostering cats through our local animal shelter. Awesome. So let's meet our panelists for today. And we're going to start with Devin.
Hey everyone, so excited to be here and to chat with you a bit today. My name is Devin Vaughn, and I'm the Director of Diversity and Inclusion and Corporate Social Responsibility at SAP Concur. I am based out of Seattle, Washington, and a few fun facts about me. I absolutely love to travel. That's obviously been put on pause with the pandemic, but it's one of the things that actually drew me to Concur as a travel and expense company. But I've been to all of the different continents, most of them a number of times. I'm exploring minus Antarctica. It's like the one thing just takes so long to get there. I'm gonna have to wait for a very large opportunity to take 2 weeks to get there and back by boat. But you'll see some of the pictures of the Great Wall of China and at the pyramids in Cairo, Egypt. Also, I feel like it's kind of a random hobby. Maybe you all have some random hobbies, but I was into jump roping when I was younger. So I was nationally ranked in jump roping and competed in the Junior Olympics. And so really good at just doing tricks, speed, and power, which are kind of the three different elements of jump roping. And then I call it my not so guilty pleasure, because I don't think there's anything wrong with it. But after a day of work, I love to dive in and binge some reality TV. So if any of you are super into a show, there is a high likelihood that I have at least watched one episode, if not more.
That's awesome. Thanks, Steph. And I agree. I love a good reality TV show as well. Okay, great. And Megan.
Great. Devin, I 100% agree. It's not a guilty pleasure to watch reality TV. Everyone, I think, is probably just succumbing to the urge to do it right now. So, hi, everyone. I'm Megan Harry, and I am the Senior Manager of the Service Delivery Team for our federal government customers. So, my team delivers on implementation and ad hoc services for our government solution at SAP Concur. I currently am based out of Alexandria, Virginia, my home office, as most of us are. I usually work in our Tyson's Corner office, which is in Vienna, Virginia. But since COVID, we've been closed. So I luckily get to work from home. A few fun facts about me. I am originally from New Jersey. I don't know if that's exciting, uh, but that's where I grew up. And I have been in the DC metro area since 2008. Time flies. I can't believe it's been that long that I've been away from home, so to speak, but I do love living in this area. I do also love to bake. I'm not that great at it, but since COVID started, I have tried my hand at a few things, a few favorites that my grandmom used to make. They didn't come out too badly, but they were edible at least. But I'm still perfecting the craft. And since COVID has begun and school has now been back in service, I myself am finding that I am a part-time kindergarten and pre-K teacher. I have two boys. One is 4 and the other is 6. So I am kind of a teacher's assistant, a cafeteria worker, and a school principal all rolled in one, while I'm also doing my current job. So it's been trying, and I'm sure, there's a lot of people relating to the fact that this is just different times for us being so virtual, and it's never been sure that we all will get through this together because there's no other option. So that's me, and I'm so excited to be here and get to share with you guys some of my experiences.
Thanks so much, Megan. And yeah, I love that you listed your additional roles right now and responsibilities. I'm sure you can add that to maybe your LinkedIn as well. Expand your portfolio. I love it. Okay, awesome. And then Alice.
Hi, everyone. It's nice to virtually meet you all. I'm Alice Day. I work as a software development engineer at SAP Concur, and I've been in this role for about 1.5 years now. I first joined Concur as an IXP intern. I'm in Washington, Bellevue. Some fun facts about myself is that I'm originally from Canada, from Vancouver, BC, but I did most of my high school here in Bellevue, and then just fell in love with the state and stayed here. I don't have a very direct path into technology, so hence my background is actually in journalism and political science, but I got my master's in computer science. I really enjoy playing badminton and a lot of video games right now. And I'm a big fan of London fogs and pickles, and I've recently gotten into like pickling, and I think I've done a pretty good job. So I'm trying to expand my my pickling skills.
I love it. I love it. And it's really interesting, just your first fun fact, Alice, about your bachelor's degree being very different, right, from your master's, and something I'm sure a lot of us have experienced. I as well, just having a history and being in corporate social responsibility now today. So that's a great call out. So thanks, everybody. Wonderful. Well, to kick it off, we're going to try out our polling option here in Zoom. So we'd love to kind of hear from everybody in the audience and just what your current level of education is. So you'll see a poll pop up on the screen shortly. Perfect. Awesome. And I'm seeing a lot of Northeast natives here in the call today. So that's great. And Megan is our panelist that, again, she's located in Virginia, and then our other 2 panelists are in the Washington area. So SAP Concur, although headquartered in Washington, we have a fair amount of offices around the US, but Virginia, Vienna, Virginia is one of our largest office locations as well. Oh, great. Okay, perfect. Awesome. Thanks everybody so much for testing out the polling and answering that question. Great. So now we're going to just do a quick icebreaker just to get to know each and every one of you a little bit more. So in the chat, if you don't mind answering, who is our dream carpool karaoke guest? So this was my favorite carpool karaoke with Michelle Obama and Missy Elliott. It was hands down just so exciting to watch Missy Elliott just pop up in the back seat when I thought it was just Michelle Obama. So it was really cool. I mean, not just obviously Michelle Obama either, but it was really exciting to see Missy Elliott participate in that as well. So awesome. Oh, Adele. Adele is a very good one as well. Love it. Oh, Kamala. That would be very cool. It would be great to see her on Carpool Karaoke as well. Awesome. Yes, very cool. Lizzo. That's a good one. That's a good call out, Julia. Zendaya, very cool. Awesome. We'll just keep kind of chatting and letting us know who your dream carpool karaoke guest would be. And then we'll move on to the chat. So, to start off, I would love to hear a little bit more about each of your career journeys and how you ended up at SAP Concur. Devin, I think we'll start off with you on this question.
Yeah, no, absolutely. For anyone out there that isn't quite sure where they're potentially going to go, or they're kind of still navigating it, or potentially considering a career switch, I would say my story is very representative that what I thought I would be doing is nowhere near to what I'm actually doing. So when I was even in high school and in college, I was dead set on one career path, and that was to be a buyer for a major retail store. So I was super involved in high school in DECA. In college, I was in all of the retail management clubs. I did all of my internships with retailers like Victoria's Secret and Target. And then I joined after college, and it's not that I disliked it, but it didn't seem quite as exciting as maybe what I had initially hoped. And so this opportunity presented itself to actually do a complete 180 and join a large tech company as a recruiter. And I really didn't know what to expect. I hadn't really considered HR as an option. I didn't really know a ton about STEM and technology. But I kind of took this leap of faith because in the interviews, they were talking about all of this innovation and this fast-paced environment and change and being able to make an impact. And all of these things really drew me in and I connected with. And so I went for it and I became a college recruiter. I'm recruiting primarily out of the East Coast of the US. And through my time with recruiting, I started to find that I was leaning consistently into diversity and inclusion. The things that really made me passionate were creating equitable opportunities for students and seeing some of those inequities and wanting to really correct them and to do my due diligence to bring in more diversity into an area that has really lacked a ton of diversity within tech. And so I really grew this passion into my full-time job, where then later, right, because of the work I was leaning into and almost that free time or those side projects, it slowly became my full-time role. And so have been focused on diversity and inclusion efforts for the past 7 years now, really being able to make an impact both in the hiring process and then also from an inclusion and career growth perspective. But if you had asked me in college, like I said, one, I was so set on one career path, but two, I honestly didn't even know diversity and inclusion was a thing. I had no idea. I honestly hadn't even really considered tech companies. And this is coming from a space where I was going to college in Seattle. We have Microsoft and Amazon in our backyard. And so in hindsight, it almost baffles myself that I didn't think about it. But in leaning into tech, I found so much, and I learned and grow every single day, because just like what drew me in years ago when I was recruited to be a recruiter, all of that has held true, right? Like, even more this year, right? Things are changing at a huge pace. And I feel like within that tech space, you have so much opportunity, right? Like, that is the future. And so regardless if it is creating those programs or supporting the employees that make that up, I think that there is just a world of opportunities. So that's a little bit about how I kind of found my way into diversity and inclusion, as well as into tech.
That's great. Thanks so much for sharing that, Devin. And definitely, just like Alice had mentioned during her intro of where her bachelor's degree was from her master's, right? We all are on a different journey, and things change and our paths change unexpectedly. So thank you for sharing that. Alice, would you like to just share a little bit about your journey?
Yeah, I can go ahead and share about my experience in my journey. So I, throughout like high school and even now, have always been like a very creative person and a people person, and I love meeting new people. I love talking, and I would say that's where my skill set is. And so when I went to college, I wanted to be a lawyer. That was kind of my goal. I've watched so many like Special Victims Unit, CSI, and all of these shows, and I was like, I want to wear a power suit. I want to wear heels. I want to have a briefcase. Like, I'm going to be a lawyer. And then there was like, it was like right after the like lawyer bubble, and so everyone was like, this is not a feasible like career, like don't do it, like there's too many lawyers. And I was like, okay, I need to pivot. And I was always good at like writing stories and creative writing, and so I decided to go into journalism while also doing political science so that I could still pursue law if I wanted to do that. And so in college, I worked for the school newspaper. I also interned for Washington Newspaper Publishers Association, and was reporting at Olympia, which is the capital of Washington State, covering like education reform and education policy. And then I freelanced for a couple of papers, mostly covering like arts, news, and just opinion beats. And so after I graduated, I realized it was really difficult to find a job as a journalist, as print media was slowly kind of dying and everyone was moving into more technology mediums. And so like interviews after interviews, just like the pay was just like unrealistic. And living in Washington, they're like, oh, you know, you can make $15 an hour and plus an extra 50 cents. And I was like, my London fog was $6. Like it's just, I just cannot live off of that salary. And so the year after I graduated, I worked at like MAQ Consulting, at Microsoft, and also at Amazon. So I worked at Amazon as HR because I thought, you know, I have a journalism and political science degree. What field can I use this in? So I did HR at Amazon for a little bit, and then I worked at Microsoft as a technical recruiter, recruiting for colleges for like developers and program managers, and just, you know, kind of finding talent and also sending offers. And then just meeting interns and talking to them about their experience and why they wanted to be in a tech space just made me realize like, hey, I don't want to be me, like I want to be them, and I want to be working in a tech company as a developer or as a PM. So I got my master's in computer science, and in my master's program I interned at Amazon, at Concur, and at LinkedIn as a software engineer, which was kind of ironic because I was on the flip side. And then throughout all of those internship experiences, I really enjoyed SAP Concur because I had a really good relationship with my manager, and I really liked the company culture. So I decided to come back here and work full-time as a software developer. So that I wouldn't have expected that, because my dad, a lot of like my boyfriend and a lot of the people around me are software developers, and I was like, I am never going to do that. I do not want to sit in front of a computer and write code all day. And so now it's ironic that I'm kind of in this space, and I find it very, I think there might be like a lack of like communication and not a lot of like women and a lot of like diversity in tech still. And sometimes when it comes to like building applications, building empathy and value into a program, you really need a diverse audience to think about all of the different users and all of the different cases. So if there's not enough like women, if there's not enough diversity in that initial development stages or just going into building a software, as a user, sometimes you find that lack. So I find it really enjoyable now, because I think having a communication background, I'm really able to communicate verbally, like using English, and also just programmatically, like coding. So I'm able to use both of my kind of sides of my brain now.
That's awesome. And I love that you leveraged that education to implement practices in your current job, right, in your current career field. So and I didn't realize until today that you both really kind of started your careers out as recruiters and then leaned into those areas that you were really focusing your recruiting on. So within technology.
So random.
That's so great. That's very interesting, and how you learned so much there, right? And then took that even further to your real career path, right? So that's really exciting. Megan, how about you? Let's hear a little bit about your career journey. Yeah.
So my story is probably just a little bit different. I too, Alice, had ideas and visions of wearing a power suit and high heels. But honestly, I didn't have a whole lot of like thought and vision when I was in college around like what was like my exact career, kind of different from you, Devin, where like you had that goal in mind, which I think is great. I think for me, I know looking back, now where I am, I can say I was very much in a young mind, right? I just thought, it'll happen. I'll figure it out when I get there. And that's basically been, the gist of my career. I mean, I always knew that I wanted to work in business. From an early age, I figured I would own my own business at some point, and that's still, a distant dream. I'll hold on to that forever until it happens. But I knew that I wanted to take what I was doing very seriously, right? And I wanted to work in a place or in a field that meant something to a lot of people and it impacted lives. So throughout college, I worked actually at a bank, and I enjoyed it. I thought I was great at it. It was very people oriented, very interactive. But I knew by the time I graduated, I wanted something more. I knew that I was ready to be involved in something that was really like on the precipice of change and like increasing the value that we have as a society. So I started really being serious about looking at jobs and a career in the tech space. And when I moved to Northern Virginia, I worked for Northrop Grumman, and they had developed the e-travel program and system for the federal government. That was actually the first iteration that they had used for the federal government. It mirrored what they were doing for the DoD. So I was like, great, this is exciting. We're doing something new for a group of people that, as we all know, are, it's historically, they're not very change oriented. So I was excited, and honestly, I've just stuck with it ever since I moved. I've been in this space with the federal government for the entirety of my career, and I've really loved it. I've loved the longevity and being able to see how it's evolved and grown. And I was so excited to move to SAP Concur when, the company decided to move into this space, and to experience the company culture and the growth mindset, and how we're always, I think regularly, thank you, Devin, evolving as a company, and we're so adept at the way that we change and the way that we embrace the various differences that we all bring to the table. Myself, I have the luxury of like bringing a lot of what I'm passionate about to my role every day. I don't feel limited just because, you know, I'm managing a group of implementation specialists to only focus on that area. Have always been very passionate about diversity and inclusion. So I've always felt encouraged at SAP Concur to move in whatever direction that I felt was right for me. And so I took the opportunity to start a D&I council in our office. And, you know, we've been thriving for probably the last 2.5 years, just out of a passion. And that's probably the biggest thing I appreciate about working at SAP Concur is really being able to bring my passion along with me and have it be a part of my career. So regardless of my title, but that's my journey.
Thanks so much for sharing that. And that's so important, right? I think that to make that more holistic view of an employee's self, you know, it's not always just the day-to-day that really fulfills us. And I think that's such a good call out, Megan, that it's such a special thing that Concur has, something very unique, that encouragement of supporting your passions as well, whether it's in D&I or, you know, employee engagement opportunities or a little bit of both. It's great that, you know, SAP Concur really encourages those passions as well, to really create that complete fulfilled employee at SAP Concur. So great call out. Awesome. Well, we'll get to the next question. So Alice, let's start with you on this one. I know you provided a little bit of insight into this, but anything else to kind of add what it's like to work for SAP Concur?
Yeah, I can start off with my IXP experience and how I got my foot in the door with Concur.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if the details of the program has changed because I think I was an intern maybe 2 years ago, but it's a 10-week project-based internship where you're paired with a manager, a mentor, and a team, and sometimes even like co-interns. And your goal is to work on building a solution to a project. And sometimes a project is already defined for you based on like your interests or the technology stack that you're most familiar with. And other times you kind of come together and the team that you are interning in has like a problem they need to solve. So you're building a project that's an extension of their problem or something that the team wants to incorporate into their application. And it's a really great way for you to get your hands dirty, work on the project, just learn about the technology stack of a company and apply some of the things that you've learned in school. And what I really enjoyed about the IXP program here was the balance between like working on your project, networking with like fellow interns and participating in a lot of like the social events and the speaker series that they have where like the executive leaderships or just the domain experts just share about, you know, what is SAP Concur, what does it mean being like a travel and expense company, and what are the cloud solutions or kind of some of the trends that we're moving towards. And you are treated like a full-time software developer, so in the role that I was an intern in, and you have a lot of ownership. A day-to-day would be like, you know, meeting with your manager or mentor and talking about some of the progress you've made and some of kind of your weekly wins or the issues that you're facing and how you can tackle it. So the transition between an intern to a full-time developer, I think wasn't as difficult because I went back to the team that I interned on, and the project that I was working on wasn't like an internship project designed just, you know, just for the interns, but it was something that was related to the service. And so that transition was pretty smooth. I was already familiar with the technologies that the team worked on. And, I had met and networked with like my team members and the teams on my floor and in my organization. And so I think the only difference was just more ownership and kind of more knowledge in that domain area to be able to speak up and kind of present like fresh ideas and ways that we could pivot or just different features we can build off of. So for me, working at SAP Concur, I really enjoy it. I think I work on different languages month to month. I'm learning all of these new tools, and we're pretty fast paced. And so you're always learning something new. And I think that's really important because sometimes you can kind of get stuck in your ways, or you just feel very comfortable and knowledgeable, and you're not learning as much as you would hope for. So that's kind of my experience at SAP Concur. There's also a lot of opportunities once you're kind of in your career. You can kind of grow horizontally or also like horizontally or vertically. And I'm currently participating in a couple of programs for early talents. And that's a great way to still have that support in your first couple of years of joining a company, because sometimes you can still feel a little bit new, and you can sometimes feel like you don't really have kind of as much support as you did as an intern, but there's many different programs put in place here at Concur to make you feel like you're always supported, and there's many different interest groups you can join. So I'm taking I'm taking advantage of all of that right now. So I like to keep myself busy with lunch and learns, and there's like afternoon yoga sessions, and so it's very interesting. And I think the company is also putting in a lot of virtual events now that we can't really have these like sync ups and seminars, and so keeping myself busy.
That's awesome. And thanks for giving us a little bit of insight into your IXP experience as well. Just a little bit of background. So the IXP program within SAP Concur is our internship program for SAP Concur. And just like Alice mentioned, what I've heard, I haven't experienced the IXP program as I started off as a full-time employee here, but it's very project-based and not as it's not so much as like a usual internship experience where it's not assisting others in making copies and where you hear a lot of internship experiences are, but this is very project-based opportunities. So it's really learning how to become a project manager and keeping track of those projects, watching them develop and grow. So it's an exciting opportunity, absolutely. Okay, great. Devin, do you want to dive a little bit into what it's like for you to work at SAP Concur?
Yeah, I think there's two things that really stand out to me when I think about like my time at Concur, and one of them is the impact. And I absolutely love working for global companies. I feel like there's just so much more reach, and you have the opportunity to connect with so many different people around the world. And I talked about how one of the things that drew me to tech was constantly learning. And I think that on the people side of things, you are constantly meeting new people and learning new perspectives and new things about culture and how people communicate and interact, and what are the problems or solutions we're trying to solve based off of that region, or how we scale and scope to something from something that was small and successful to something that we want to be large and successful. And so I think that that's something that I really think about when I think about Concur. It's just like that reach and that impact and that exposure at a global scale, which is really exciting to me. And then I think the other thing that I hold a ton of value in within Concur are our values. And then I think within SAP Concur, we do a tremendous job of really living our values and holding ourselves and holding others accountable to those. Prior to coming to SAP Concur, I worked for an organization where honestly, like on paper, values sound terrific, right? It was honestly like a dream job on paper. I was so excited to join. And unfortunately, like it didn't really come to fruition. Like I joined, a lot of things were kind of like said, but something else was done in a meeting that like really conflicted that. And I had a really hard time like being bought in because it was so misaligned, and I didn't feel like they were living up to the values. I felt like it was a lot of talk and not enough action, or at least not action that was aligned and moving in the right direction for the talk. And so I think coming from that experience into Concur, something that I put tremendous value on was that alignment, and knowing that like, okay, within the space that I work in within D&I and CSR, diversity and inclusion and corporate social responsibility, I wanted a company and an organization that truly meant what they said. And I think from my experience working from individual contributors that are just joining the company all the way up to our president, Jim Lucier, there is alignment. Now, that doesn't mean that like there aren't difficult conversations or situations and we don't have areas of opportunity, because we do. And I think part of that is just being transparent with where those opportunities exist. But I can say that I'm really proud of the work that we're doing, and I'm really proud of the employees, and to be colleagues with them, and to be able to collaborate and to like really just make strides to move in the right direction, both for our business, but also for our people and our world. And so for me, when I think about working at Concur, really it's the global impact, and I think it's just like the proud nature of like working with people that have a similar outlook on what success means to me.
Yeah, thank you, Devin. Thanks for sharing that. Definitely walking the talk, right, is very important when finding a company to stay with long term as well. So very, very good call out. How about you, Megan? How do you feel? I know that you shared a little bit during the last question, but if you have anything to add.
Yeah, I did. I touched on it a little bit before with my first response, but yes, it's remains true. I agree 100% with you, Devin, about, you know, really walking the talk. And I find that we are very transparent. It's probably throughout my career, this is the most transparent company that I've worked for. Even, you know, being with Concur throughout an acquisition, as we were acquired by SAP, everything was very transparent in the communications that we received as existing employees of Concur, and the ways that we were preparing ourselves for the impact. So for me, I've really appreciated working for a company that is very honest and open and forthright with the things that are going on, not only just at the top, but, you know, really throughout the entire breadth of the company. With being acquired by SAP, we have gained, I think, a broader reach and understanding of the impact we have on each other, right, as a company, and the workforce as we work with each other. So there are tons and tons of programs that are in place and were in place with SAP when we joined that we are very fortunate to be able to take advantage of. So I appreciate that, you know, it was really a seamless transition for us, and we have been able to take advantage of, you know, things like doing fellowships. I myself got to do a fellowship even as a leader. I got to move into a different role for 6 months and, you know, imagine, or I guess not imagine, but feel what it would be like to work on the diversity and inclusion team for SAP. We have things like mentoring opportunities where you can yourself either become a mentor or sign up to receive mentoring. We have coach certification programs. I am myself a certified SAP coach. So there's a ton of opportunities within SAP and SAP Concur to grow. That's why I like you said, Chelsea, being able to have a company where you feel like you can grow your career. You don't have to leave to go find a better experience elsewhere. There's so much to experience within the walls, so to speak, of SAP and SAP Concur. So that is what most excites me about being able to grow my career here.
Yeah, I love that, Megan. And yeah, I just, as Alice said as well, right? However, SAP Concur really supports your growth within SAP as a whole, whether it's horizontal, vertical, your career can change while you're working and staying within SAP or SAP Concur. I started out in market development, smiling and dialing, and now I'm, working within corporate social responsibility, which was my big passion in life. So I think you hit it really on the head there, Megan. It's just they support your development and growth within your career journey within SAP and SAP Concur. So that's a great call out. While we have you, I think we'll start off, Megan. Oh, actually, we're going to take a quick poll first. So we'd love to hear from each of you on just a quick poll of, so what area of a tech company, after hearing from Devin and Megan and Alice, where do you really find that you would be interested in within a tech company? Awesome. Seeing a lot of engineering, that would make sense. Marketing is very exciting. Got some HR and people and product strategy. Very cool. And we'll leave this poll up just for another moment. And thanks so much. I am seeing that the chat is busy here, and we'll get to a few questions at the end of our panel. So we'll make sure Jennifer's checking out the chat, and we'll pick a few good questions to ask at the end. So final question for the three of you, and Megan, we'll have you start this one off. What is the most important advice that you would have for someone, thinking about their future and their career?
Yeah. So for me, when I looked at this question, I thought, what do I wish someone told me, right? Now that I'm probably, I feel like at this middle point in my career, what do I wish that someone told me about 10 or 15 years ago when I was really in a place where I felt like I was just starting off? And for me, I really wish that someone really hammered it home to me that I would be my own worst enemy, right? That I would really be my own obstacle, and how to move beyond that, really, and how to become a better advocate for yourself, right? You are your own best marketer. You just have to be as comfortable as you possibly can be talking about yourself, and in a way that's authentic, and it feels like you're not selling yourself, but you really believe that you are the right person for a role, for a project, for this part in your career, that you have earned your seat at the table, and that there's no reason that anyone else should be sitting in that spot but you. And I wish that I, took the opportunity when I was a lot younger to really build up what I would consider is a board for myself, right? To have your own board of people in your corner, right? Who have different perspectives, different experiences, different modes of giving you advice. Maybe it's, giving you some tough love, or giving you sometimes what you need to hear, and really learning to how to keep those types of people in my corner. at an early on stage in my career, so that I could lean on them in the times where I felt like I needed some more perspective, or I was feeling like, where should I go next in my career? And am I really ready for taking on this leadership role? So yeah, I think that to me is like the biggest advice, holistically, that I could give anyone at this point, is to really like flower yourself and flank yourself with a group of people that are really strong, good advice givers that maybe don't have the same career path that you're looking at, or maybe have a different background and grew up in a different way that from you. Because I think, like Devin touched on, is like getting perspectives of other people just really enriches you as a person. And with that, the options are endless, I think. So that would be my one piece of solid advice, I think, for you guys.
I think that's pretty solid advice. I wish I had that advice earlier on in my career. I think we all did. So yeah, absolutely. Believe in yourself and stay in contact with those that believe in you too, right? That's such great advice. Awesome. Devin or Alice?
Go ahead, Alice.
That's really tough to follow, Megan. This is kind of a hard question for me because I feel like I'm still pretty early on in my career, but I can't help but feel like something that is often overlooked is maybe overlooked, or maybe it's kind of hard to understand, is like networking. Like everyone talks about like, oh, you should network, like go network, go to all these different events and make sure you network. But it's kind of hard when you're in one of these events, let's say like if it's in person, to like know who to talk to, like how to give like an elevator pitch. And now that a lot of these sessions are virtual, it's even harder to figure out how to navigate these. But I do think it's really important to network. And the way that I networked was like when I was in school, I tried to participate in as like activities that I found interesting to me. I would maybe try to get a role on like the student council, or just meet different people, participate in activities that you think you're interested in, or maybe something that you want to do. Follow up with the speaker if they give their contact information, if it's a topic that you're interested in. And I think it's really important, like Megan said, just to know who's in your corner and establish those relationships. When I was interning and covering at the state capitol, my publisher would always like vouch for me and would bring me to all of these events because he knew my work and he kind of copy edited all of my stories. And there were so many events that I didn't know about, or I didn't even know existed, that he brought me into. And one of them was like, hey, we're having lunch with the governor, would you like to attend? And it's all of these little things that once you have people, I'm using Megan's words, like in your corner, or once you already have these relationships established, there's so many career opportunities or just personal gains that will come out of these relationships. And especially for a lot of the folks who are maybe pivoting or thinking about a career that's different from the degree they got and they're not too sure how to get started, there's so many of these kind of events, there's so many of these activities. I think now would be the great time to leverage them, especially if you're just in school or getting out of school and you don't have too many priorities just yet. Just saturate yourself. Don't go overboard, because sometimes it can be overwhelming. And I also think sometimes for me, when I'm like stuck on a work problem or I'm having a really tough work week, I'm really tough on myself and I like beat myself up and I start thinking, wait, is this the right field for me? Maybe I don't know anything. Like everyone knows so much. I don't know anything about anything. And it's what we call the imposter syndrome. And it's especially hits a little bit harder for me where my background was not in technology and I transitioned into tech, where sometimes I have that fear, like, oh, did I say something stupid? Like, am I not using the right verbiage? But at the end of the day, it's like you shouldn't compare, your chapter 1 to someone's, chapter 12. And I think speaking with other people who are in the same career path or just attending these events that focus on a lot of like women in tech issues have really helped me understand and, realize like, hey, I'm doing perfectly all right. This is totally normal. I just started. I shouldn't have all of these unrealistic expectations for me. I hope I'm not rambling, but I think it's just different tools that you can use to figure out if this is the right career for you, if it's something that you're interested in, and how to get started and how to just, get involved. I would say network.
Yeah. Mine is honestly so in line with Alice and Megan, but like my biggest piece of feedback for anyone, regardless of kind of where they are, but especially when I think of my younger self, like Megan was thinking about, is it's about progress and not perfection. I like to say I'm a recovering perfectionist. And I say that because although I've made strides to like become better and focusing on the progress, I have to often kind of like self-reflect and check myself to say like, am I striving like for, what am I striving for and what's the reason behind it? And is it worth beating myself up over maybe a small mistake or not hitting this incredibly high bar that I've hit for myself? But when I think about other people, like they have no expectation of hitting this like bar, right? It's about moving forward. It's about creating that impact. And so I think that that's something that I wish someone had really kind of shared with me. Is it's not about being perfect. That's not the expectation from companies. And if it is, you may want to consider, is that like where you really want to be? Because that's a lot of stress and pressure to be perfect. And it's likely unattainable on a consistent basis. But where is a place that's really empowering you to make that impact and to show that progress and to be able to celebrate some of the small wins, right? When we think about like working in STEM in general, like there's some big problems to solve and they're not going to get solved overnight. And so I think when we hold ourselves to that standard of needing to solve this ginormous opportunity or to show up every single day and be perfect and always hit the nail on the head, it also limits our own opportunity for growth and for development and for learning. And so along with that, I would just encourage all of you to say yes, like Alice touched on this as well, but like lean into those uncomfortable moments. Like even if you know you're not an expert at it, even if you know you're not going to be perfect at it, like those are the opportunities that I have learned the most from, and I think have really shaped my own career and will continue to kind of propel me as I move forward.
That's great. Thank you so much. Thanks, Devin, and thanks, Alice. I think you all three hit the nail on the head with that. Great advice. And I think that belief in yourself can even help with that perfectionism or the imposter syndrome, right? And saying, no, I got this, I can do this, even if it's uncomfortable for me, or even if it's new territory or something that I've never tried before. So really, really great advice there. Thank you three so much. We're going to try one last poll. So this one's actually pretty easy, just a yes or no. But everybody on the call, are you interested in learning a little bit more about internship and employment opportunities at SAP Concur down the road? Great. Seeing a lot of yeses, a few no thanks, and that's okay as well. Perfect. Great. Well, we just so happen to be hosting an IXP internship session through STEM for Her that will be in January, looking at earlier January, but we'll be able to send out a little bit more information in the upcoming weeks. So if you are interested in learning a little bit more about the IXP internship opportunities and just life at SAP Concur, make sure to keep an eye out for those opportunities and those communications coming out. Okay, perfect. So now that we have just a little bit of time left, we'll have a little bit of Q&A. So great. Jennifer, do you have just a few questions, maybe just 2 questions that we want to pull out?
Sure.
Okay, great.
Sure. It's like, what are some tech careers that are more in need for designing and creativity? Like, which ones are more geared towards that?
I
Or
feel
in
like a
need? Do you have
recruiter.
any insight into what also the big, I guess the big tech jobs are right now, that the hot, like I know cybersecurity is a huge topic, right? That might be not up someone's alley, though they might want more of the designer or the creativity side. So have you heard of any of those roles? I mean, there's obviously gaming, which is not obvious, you know, in your industry, but there could be other avenues that are more along those lines.
I would say like your classic vanilla technology job would be a software engineer. And even in that field, there's a lot of like, in that role, there's a lot of design and creativity. It may not be creativity in terms of like arts or creativity in terms of like in that aspect, but I think when it comes to like problem solving, you really have to consider a lot of factors in designing a solution. Like, for example, if I'm designing the solution for 10 users versus for 10 million users, then the tools and kind of the algorithms that you're using is going to be very different. You have to think about all the different business cases and all of the different edge cases, and the translation of the ubiquitous language from so like if we're thinking about like a rideshare company, we're not talking about like users, we're talking about like passengers and drivers. So there's a lot of like design and creativity in that specific role, but I think the question is asking more for design and creativity in maybe the more abstract and a little bit more like artistic realm. I would say there's a lot of like UX, UI designers, and that's more about kind of when you're looking at an application or when you're looking at a website, just the way that the different forms and the way that your user interacts with the application, how to make it more seamless. I'm not too familiar with these roles, but there's also UX or user researchers, and that goes into a little bit more of like the psychology and how do like users interact with like a phone. Like, should the home button be like in the bottom? Like, are these buttons too big? And so I think this is something that you can definitely look into and maybe kind of Google a little bit more. But there's just definitely more than your like software developers or program managers. There's so many different like niche markets. There's also gaming too, which is, very creative and very design focused on like rigging and lighting, and all of this touches technology and is built off of technology tools. So there's so many careers that you can
do. I think that's you've done. That was great. Another quick question is, so you touched on the IXP program, and I know we're gonna integrate that into our January program, but is that a program that's specific to postgraduate, undergraduates? Where does the SAP have their internship program? Is it in a general, very quick answer, because we are running out of like minutes here. Do they offer internships to undergrads or postgrads in that sense?
So I can take this one. It's both. So if you are an undergrad, if you have recently graduated, if you're in a master's or a PhD program, I think I even saw something about like a boot camp, like tech boot camps. Like, it's very open-ended. We don't have like super rigid restrictions. We really want to hire the best and brightest talent that's going to bring a unique perspective and unique skill sets to SAP and SAP Concur. So if you fit into any of those buckets, you would be eligible for our internship program, and we would obviously love to have you join the session in January and hopefully get to know you throughout the application process.
Great. And I guess the last one would be, and I, we all know the answer to this one, but it's along those lines of, you don't know what you want. You think you know what you want to be, say, for example, a doctor down the line, but you know, you don't know what kind of doctor, and that can apply to, you want to work for tech, but you're not sure what kind of tech is that, like, and it's just getting that understanding that it can be an evolution, right? It doesn't have to be, oh, I'm going to be, as you all said, in your role, in your journeys.
Yeah, totally. I think that, when you don't really know until until you're experiencing. And I think that's the best way to figure out where you fit, where you feel like it's the right fit for you, is, getting in there and trying new things and immersive experiences. I mean, just for me, my work history, my career journey, very different from where, I am today, but I trusted the timing and stayed until, I maybe felt like my time was done at that place of employment. But I learned along the way what I really wanted to do and where and what type of company I really wanted to work for. And so I would say that it's just, you don't really know until you know. I mean, obviously follow your passions and what, you're passionate about, but really diving in and being immersed in an experience in a job that you don't know until you're in that job, right? So that would be, yeah.
That's great. Well, I do think, unfortunately, we've run out of time.
Yes.
So I want to thank Chelsea, Devin, Megan, and Alice for everything. This has been a very eye-opening experience for this hour, and I hope you all will take time to fill out our survey. I'm going to put it in the chat right now, so you can use that link. And those people that have attended today and also fill out the survey will be entered into a drawing for the AirPod Pros that SAP Concur was very gracious to donate. So we appreciate that, and we hope everyone enjoyed, and please be on the lookout for future programming that will be coming up. We'll share it out with anyone that would be interested in our January program or anything that we have on the schedule.
Thank you so much, Jennifer.
You're welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.